I agree with SJM's assertion that Nesta and Lucian would have destroyed each other in a bad way. So I don't know about Nesta and Lucian. I am a day one Feyre Lucian shipper. It's why it's kind of hard for me to ship Lucian with anybody else. But Nesta Eris? I've seen enough of this on Tumblr. I'm starting to get intrigued. I do really like the idea of Nesta having the opportunity to go somewhere else, because unlike Elaine, who has always asserted that the Night Court is where she belongs and that's where she wants to be, and she will do what she can to protect it and stay there, Nesta didn't really give a fuck about living in the Night Court until she started doing Valkyrie stuff and started to become invested in Cassian. Like, she needed the investment in Cassian and Gwyn and Emery in order to be invested in the Night Court, because the Night Court were assholes to her. Her and Cassian fizzle out because of the whole thing where Morgan and Cassian exchanged their underwear with each other, and she's draped all over him, and she's just like not here for the bullshit. So I guess at that point she would throw the gift into the river, and she would go home, and the Cassian and Nesta thing would kind of die right there. Which means in a scenario where Nesta is called out for her drinking and her spending of Night Court money to party, when she's given the choice to go to the House of Wind and train with Cassian or go to the human lands and die, I don't think she'd go with Cassian at that point. I think at that point she would be this Nesta, the Nesta who ends up with Eris, would be so fucking done with the Night Court that she would just be like, all right, fine, drop me off in the human lands. I'll fuck off and die then. And at that point, I think she would be found by Lucian, because Lucian is living in the human lands at this point. I think he would stumble across Nesta and be like, what the hell are you doing out here? Come to the House of the Band of Exiles with us. We will shoot the shit and talk shit about the Night Court all we want. And in this story, both Nesta and Lucian are going to have issues with the idea that Elaine is choosing someone else. It's in completely different context, but I think the Nesta-Lucian friendship in this context and in this scenario would be excellent, beautiful shit. And I think it would rival the way that the Nesta-Azriel friendship makes me feel. But I think at this point, Lucian's got his own stuff to deal with. He has Vasa, he has Jurian. I think in this scenario, I think he'd be getting with Vasa, so like there would be stuff happening with Lucian, and I think on Lucian's part, he would know that he is not completely equipped to deal with the breadth of Nesta's problems. So at that point, he's like, okay, we're going to get you somewhere else. And Spring isn't really an option, and he can't send her back home to the Night Court. So at that point, he tries, maybe the Day Court? Maybe? And at this point, he doesn't know that Hellion is his father, but I do think that he would go with the Day Court because it's still like a solar court and it's nice weather, and I think that he would make it a point to make sure that she was in as comfortable a place as possible, knowing that Nesta likes to read. So Lucian and the Band of Exiles, they follow Nesta over to the Day Court. They have a grand old reading time, and Hellion is like, okay, what the hell do I do with this crazy fire lady and this fire boy and his human friends? He's got a little bit of a diplomatic crisis on his doorstep. Meanwhile, Eris is out in the world. He's wheeling and dealing because he's got that deal with the Night Court. But he comes across the Day Court. I'm assuming Hellion is a secret, not a secret ally, but I think that he and Hellion are cool, knowing that everybody fucking hates Baron. So he's getting cool with all the High Lords for when such time comes that Baron kicks the bucket. And it's then that Nesta and Eris meet. And Nesta at this point does not know any of the nonsense that happened in the Night Court several hundred years before with Morgan and Cassian and Azriel and all that. So at this point, Eris is intrigued, and he and Nesta, they are flirting in the Day Court library stacks. It is beautiful, gorgeous shit. And meanwhile, they're helping Lucian with his own girl problems, because he would be trying to deal with, the loss of Elaine. Not that he's lost her at this point, but Elaine really just wants nothing to do with him. And he's got other things going on in his life where he's like, he needs to let go of her because this is his mate, but at the same time, like, she doesn't want him, and he knows what it's like to have someone in his life who chose him. As a sidebar, yes, I am brainstorming a a Nesta Eris version of A Court of Silver Flames, and I still am on my El Real bullshit. So Eris and Nesta progress. They do all of their nasty banging, and like their nasty, like the dirtiest banging there ever was, because, you know, they do fuck like they have fire in their blood. And at the same time, Eris is teaching Nesta, or trying to teach her as best as he can, how to wield her flames, because they now both are flame people. And we get to this ball, like this whole ball, and I'm assuming it wouldn't be in the Court of Nightmares, it would be somewhere else, but the Night Court is there, and Cassian is there, and Morgan and Azrael and all those guys, and her sisters, and she doesn't want to look at her sisters, and it's a whole thing, and she's observing, you know, Feyre's super happy with Risen, and Feyre's pregnant, and she didn't know that Feyre was pregnant, and it's all just painful and awful, and it sucks. It sucks to be in a situation like that. And it's at this moment where she feels just completely surrounded by these Night Court guys who don't like her, who her sisters have chosen above her. It's then that Eris asks her to dance, and it is beautiful, and it's just a very tender scene where he shows where Eris Van Sarah shows his quality, and everything is magical and beautiful. And at some point, Cassian would pull her aside and be like, "You guys seem happy together, and like, I'm done with you." And whether Nesta and Cassian are mates at this point, I feel like in this story they're not, and it's actually Nesta and Eris that are mates. But Cassian, I feel like, would step aside and be like, this was never going to go anywhere anyway. We're too different. We have too many problems. But, you know, I should let you know, Eris did this, and this. And if you get with him, you're getting with like a guy who has done this, and he is that kind of asshole. So this would set Nesta back significantly. And I think, as a sidebar of stuff that's happening, I think that Emery and Gwyn would be Nesta's friends in this story as well. I can't imagine Nesta post A Court of Frost and Starlight without Gwyn and Emery at this point. So Nesta's trying to grapple with the fact that she's falling in love with a dude who, you know, allowed Morgan to get, you know, a freaking nail in the uterus. And Emery and Gwyn and Nesta, they still have this fascination with the Valkyries. I think they still call themselves that. And they have their sleepover, and everything is starting to look up for her. She's starting to feel a little better, and she's ready to talk to Eris about this. And then, instead of the Illyrians taking her to the Blood Rite, Baron takes her because he knows that Eris has betrayed him. And it's during her captivity in the Autumn Court with Gwyn and Emery that Nesta finds out that Eris is her mate. And she is completely reeling from this because she didn't think that she would ever get one, because she's always had like shitty self-worth. She didn't think that she was ever going to get one ever in her life. So at this point, Eris is freaking the fuck out. He's trying to get his woman back. That way he can explain the situation. And he doesn't know that Nesta knows that they're mates, and he's just like flipping the fuck out. And while Eris and company are trying to rescue Nesta, it's then that Nesta really unlocks her powers, and it's at that point that she kills the human queen. She does everything that she did at the end of A Court of Silver Flames. And then Nesta and Eris live happily ever after, and it's lovely. It's excellent shit. And in this version of the story, everybody gets what they want. We got Elriel. We have Nesta being happy. We have Rizan not sucking. This is a great story.